Hello there. Welcome to this episode of Force Ghost Conversations. This is your host, Anthony King, and this week I am joined by P.T. McNiff from the Long Take Review to discuss Jaws 3. If you're a fan of the podcast and would like to consider pledging your support, there will be a link in the episode description for you to check out the various tiers offered. Also, please be sure to check out our TeePublic store to buy some Force Ghost Conversations merchandise. And without further ado, it is time to gather around the campfire for some Force Ghost Conversations. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody, and welcome to the third dimension, the dimension of podcasting. I don't know. We're in for a real treat today because we are here to continue our Jaws discussions and to talk about the often maligned Jaws 3, Jaws 3D, depending on if you saw it in the cinema as such with 3D glasses or if you have a 3D copy yourself. And P.T. McNiff, back from our Jaws 50th anniversary celebration episode, is here to talk about Jaws 3D, and we go really as far in depth into it as we possibly can, and we actually talk for the full length of the film and then some. So that's a win in my book. I'm very excited for you all to hear this. It's a fun conversation. And before we get into that, let's do a quick roundup of the news of the Star Wars Lucasfilm Adjacent Galaxy over the past weeks, because I know I missed a few because I was on vacation. But there frankly hasn't been a whole lot, to be entirely honest. You might have seen at your local grocery store that there is Star Wars branded Coke cans and bottles out in the market. I've seen a couple people on the social medias pick them up and display them proudly, which I think is really cool. Go to your local grocery store, and if you can hunt them down, great. Find them and tag us in a picture if you feel so inclined. That'd be really cool. The other big news I want to announce that is Lucasfilm adjacent here is that San Diego Comic-Con is coming up in just a few days here. Looks like July 27th, so about roughly 2 weeks from the time of the release of this recording. In Hall H, there's going to be a panel featuring Queen Latifah, who is moderating this panel, Doug Chiang, Guillermo del Toro, and none other than George Lucas, who is coming to the San Diego Comic-Con for the first time to chat about the Lucas Museum of Narrative Art, which is set to open in 2026. And this is a panel that'll provide a sneak peek of the museum and I guess a little bit about what you can expect. And maybe on maybe my best estimation here of what could happen at this panel, a release date or not a release date, but an opening date for the museum would be really cool. Perhaps just a rundown little like teaser trailer of what to expect inside the museum. And just frankly more clarity on what types of exhibits they'll have on display. And I can't wait for the museum. You know, I'll be a member of it and hopefully get there as many and often times as I can in my lifetime as I head to the LA region. But yeah, that's all the news that I had for this week. Let's get to our Jaws 3 discussion with PT on the other side of the short break here. Stay tuned. We're back, folks, with another exciting, maybe, I don't know. We'll discuss it here. This is going to be an off the rails episode because this is frankly an off the rails movie. And you know, it's a purely audio podcast. So is it the first dimension? Is this 1D? I don't really know. What is 1D? But we're here to talk about a 3D film. And in fact, Jaws 3D. Maybe if you saw it in 1983, you'd have seen it in 3D. I think for a lot of people, we just see it in the two-dimensional version nowadays, which is just Jaws 3. And you know, our poor guest this week had to endure this a rewatch of this to in prep for this show, of course. And we're here to dissect it, talk about as much as we can remember from it, because it's not too overall memorable in my opinion. But we got PT McNiff from the Long Take Review back to celebrate maybe Jaws 3. PT, welcome back to the show, and how are you doing?
Anthony, thank you for having me. First of all, not a poor guest. Like, very happy to have rewatched this.
Hey,
to have confirmed that my thoughts about the Jaws sequels were correct when I thought of them when I was talking about them in our earlier episode. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about this movie that I can barely recall what happened because I watched it more than 24 hours ago, and that's a
You
problem.
know Dennis Quaid's in it, and you know it has
Sure,
3D, and that's really all that you
it's
need to know.
Leah Thompson's first movie
That's right,
role,
Leah Thompson. Yeah, yeah. Pre
which is
Back to the
great.
Future and
Yes.
pre Howard the Duck, and I guess you know this would be. I know she does a lot of the convention circuit, but it'd be funny to
Hmm.
like ask her which does she prefer more in her filmography, Howard the Duck or Jaws 3D.
I'm going to assume the paycheck was bigger for Howard the Duck, so I hope she would say that.
I would hope so. I would hope so. However, this film, as much as we're probably not going to love it a whole lot, was still a box office
Yeah.
success. It wasn't as much of a success as Jaws 1 or even Jaws 2, but it had a fairly substantial return for at least it warranted another sequel after this, which even that one was still a box office success. It wasn't the raving success. Talk about diminishing returns immediately here. But at least Universal was happy, and they just made another terrible product afterwards here with Jaws: The Revenge. let's get into at least your memories of seeing this, and perhaps seeing it for the first time. And Jaws 3, like we said, it's a long line of these malign sequels here. So I can see you trying to think where
Mm.
you might have seen this for the
Mhm.
first time. So do you have any memories of that, and where does it rank in the Jaws saga if you're going to list them in your opinion?
Yeah, it's interesting because not to keep doing callbacks to the Jaws 50th anniversary episode that you were kind enough to have us on, but you asked a similar question. I was like, I don't have a memory of watching the first Jaws. It's just always been a part of my life. Well,
Hmm.
I don't
Hmm.
have a memory of watching this movie either, but not because it's always been a part of my life, but because I can't imagine tying brain cells to thinking about having watched this. But here's the memories I do have. I've got two. One is I'm old enough. And we have enough of an age gap that I don't know if you would have had a similar experience, Anthony. But I'm
Hmm.
old enough that the way to figure out what was going to be on TV when I was a kid was the Sunday paper had an
Yep.
insert
Yep.
with a
Yep.
printed guide that was
Hmm. Hmm.
not free, but my parents always got the newspaper, so like we wouldn't get TV Guide. Why would you do that? You would have, for me, it was the Boston Globe TV section, and so I
Sure.
would sit there, and on Sunday morning I would read the comics, and I would grab the TV. Then after that, I would grab the TV section and look through the
Mm,
alphabetical listing of movies to see what movies were coming. And it would have the
got it.
movies, it would have the star rating given to it by the newspaper when it came out
Hmm.
next to it.
That's nice of them.
And when I got to Jay's, I was always like, is Jaws going to be playing? And sometimes Jaws would be playing 4 stars. Sometimes it would be Jaws 3, like whatever was like 1 star or 1.5 stars.
1 star? Yeah.
And I was always like, well, I guess it's not good. And so like, I don't recall when I saw it, but I recall knowing before I saw it that it was supposed to be a pretty big letdown. Because I think even
Mhm, mhm.
their take on Jaws 2 was kind of like, it's a step down, but it's like a serviceable movie. It functions as
Mm.
like a monster movie, I guess. And like, no, it's not good. So I definitely did watch it at some point and had my preconceived bias confirmed that I did not particularly care for it. But I don't know when that
Mhm.
was. But the time that I remember watching it was, oh gosh, now it would be 21 years ago. I'm again displaying my age. It was the spring of 2004. And I was,
Ayo.
and again, this will show our age range because you will be like, I was 9 and I was at a friend's wedding. But I was at a friend's wedding and it was in Florida, which is where this movie
Oh,
takes place.
that's
And
right.
Jaws 3 was on the TV in the hotel room. I was like, I'm going to watch. It was like
As it should.
after all the, yeah, it should be just constantly playing on a loop in any hotel in Hollywood, Florida. And yeah, one night after all the festivities had died down, I got back to it. It was like 2 minutes into Jaws 3. I was like, I'm going to watch Jaws 3. And I was just like, it's worse than I remembered. So what I will say is that this time for the podcast is the first time I've watched it since then. And it
Mhm.
was not worse than I remembered. Cause that was for some,
Okay.
that felt like a very bad experience where I was just
I
like,
feel like
oh
yeah.
no.
Oh, no, indeed. I feel like that's an ultimate win, though, of this.
Yeah.
Like, you revisited it and you were like, "I enjoyed it more than the last time," which
I didn't
left
say that.
a
I said
big
it wasn't
scar.
worse than I thought it would be.
That wasn't worse, which I think is a win. I'll
Yeah,
take
yeah,
it.
yeah. For this movie, for sure. That a hold is a win.
I love it. I love it.
How
And
about you? What was
I think,
your
yeah, I think every part of this state should just have this movie on loop. I feel like
yes,
it's a
gas stations?
it's quite a symbolic representation of this state in many many ways. Just keep it on loop. Um, I actually, so I will answer your question there. I did get the paper every Sunday
Oh,
too.
good.
And for many years, I still was one of the people that found the TV portion where they listed out for everything in the week. So I did do the same of being like, okay, here's the show that I want to see. Here's the channel it's on and when. Um, so that was a big part of my early youth as well. So kept that tradition alive. I doubt it's a thing anymore just because of
Yeah, I don't think
traditional
so.
media dying, but lost things. But I will say that actually it's an interesting thing to note because this does also highlight the shift in how we have consumed media over the years. So the first time that I remember seeing this, which I think was probably the first time I saw it in general too, was it was the first film that I streamed on Netflix, uh,
Mm,
which was a big deal because um, my dad had Netflix, and they had a Wii, and the DVD to stream was a big deal that they got, and that was the first time that anything like that happened, and they had a very minimal library of things at that time. And as a family, we decided we're going to watch Jaws 3D for our first film viewing of this. So that was 2008, that summer, or 2009. I can't remember exactly when, but that was roughly about that time frame that we watched it. And boy, was that a clunker! I'll say, because I think you might recall how much of a wonderful experience I had watching Jaws, and it became just a part of my story. It's a traditional thing now. We watch it every July 4th or around that, or Shark Week maybe. We'll put it on anytime it comes in the theater. We'll make an effort to go see it. Jaws 2, like it more than the other sequels, so it's at least I get some more Chief Brody time, and the mayor is back, so there's some recurring cast that you enjoy, and it's not as good as the original, but you can't beat a almost perfect film with the lightning doesn't strike twice, and it didn't with that one, even though the shark gets electrocuted at the end. um and then this one, I had high hopes for it, high expectations. I thought, oh, well, 3D, maybe it does some cool stuff, only for me to realize it's 1983 3D, which is really just gimmicky. Even though it's kind of gimmicky still nowadays and stuff, and like I feel like only the best use of 3D and the way that they try and present it now is like in an IMAX screening of like when you go to some educational field trip spot, and they had just happen to have like an
mm,
IMAX theater in the Air and Space Museum close by,
right.
and they just are like, here's Leonardo DiCaprio narrating some Mars lunar landing exhibit.
Yeah, here's
And
footage in space or on
yeah,
top of a
exactly.
mountain or
We're
something. Yeah,
showing
yeah.
you something, or Tom Hanks is narrating some bug documentary, and it's like all the bugs like zipping out into, or something like that, right? I feel like that's really the way that this tries to utilize 3D in the way that it does. But boy, in the 2D way, it just ages it so badly. Even for
Yeah.
2008, I was like, whoa, they're spending a lot of time on this scene here where the shark is beelining it looks like, for this control center here, but it's moving really slow. There's no speed in this demon whatsoever. And yeah, it was not as enjoyable. And then I think I gave it a rewatch in like 2017 or something like that, and I was like, okay, the wound had healed by then from the first time seeing it. So I think like you're like, I was like, it didn't hurt as bad seeing it again. And then I think I have a soft spot for it now. I just enjoy the clunkiness of it, and the thing that just doesn't make sense of it all. I think I read an interview. Dennis Quaid apparently was just high on cocaine for most of filming this, if not
Hmm.
all of it, which is, I think, is just more enjoyable to watch from that perspective now, and the fun subplot details of like, is she going to Venezuela with him? I don't know.
Right.
Just throw that in there. It doesn't matter. Who cares? And kind of some of the weird capitalism things about it. We can talk about the random British guy that just appears and tries to be like this
Oh yeah.
James Bond-esque kind of weird role. I don't even know what he really serves in this film. And his buddy that's really concerned about him, and just the fact that it's a theme park too. Like there's just a lot of half-baked ideas kind of in this thing that just never really come to fruition. And it's wild that, like, I want to get your opinion on this, but like Jaws is a 2-hour film. It's, you know, 202 or something like that. And it feels like 20, you know, like a half hour, right? The pacing is so well done. You don't feel like you're spending that amount of time. But this is an hour and a half, and I feel like it's like 3 hours long.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
how is this movie still going on? Did you have kind of like a similar
Oh, yeah.
rumination?
Absolutely. You know, with Jaws, it's like, wait, we're already going out on the orca? Like that's already happening?
Yeah, yeah.
Because like in my mind, I know that's like halfway through the movie, but it always feels like we've only been here for like 20
Hmm.
minutes. Yeah, because it's so good and it's just moving at such a pace. And yeah, I would contend, if you think about the sort of classic screenplay structure of what things are supposed to be, and there's like 3 acts, and there's plot point 1 and the midpoint and plot point 2 and all that. The inciting incident of this movie, which is supposed to be within the first like 10 pages of the
Hmm.
screenplay, I think it happens like almost it's 45 or 50
It
minutes
takes
in.
a while.
It's a long time to get to where it's like, oh, this is where the story starts. We've just been hanging out with people for a while. Now we have a story that's beginning.
Yep.
That's interesting. And not to give away, I guess, the sort of my main takeaway, but like I do feel like I hear what you're saying. Like the ideas here are not inherently bad.
No.
Like if you're going to do a sequel to Jaws, like okay, like I like what we're trying to do here on paper. It's not executed well on basically any level.
Right.
Off that, you know, again, you want to talk about if the paper is one dimension, the second dimension is ineptitude, and then the third dimension is terror. I think is the backup to the poster tagline.
I love it.
And it's not terror; it's the terror of how the movie turned out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this film just like it's almost like, you know, they take a lot of the beats of it and then perfect it in Jurassic Park, right? It seems like the ideas are
Yes.
kind of there for what they try to do to great execution and perfection in that film. But then this one, which seems like it'd be actually an interesting premise for it, like a shark terrorizing this SeaWorld theme park, a thing that's really a part of, you know, if you're a theme park goer, this is a big one, and it's well known. You know, I think Shamu even has a little cameo in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, although SeaWorld's come under mass scrutiny over the last 10 years for its
Yes.
practices, I think especially the time that this came out, like it kind of just fits the lexicon of what things are going. So it just makes sense. Like this might be a way for the sequel to at least reinvigorate something into the franchise, even though I'm pretty sure just in reading some of the backstory for how this movie got made, like they intended it to be a joke from the start. Like I think the first
That
draft was like called Jaws 3 People 0.
Yes. So yeah, you know, I think we probably were reading similar articles and
Yes.
Wikipedia
Yeah.
pages, but yeah, it was I guess once it was clear that like after Jaws 2, and I apologize to both you and my colleague and co-host, Jen Subchakchai Bankard, who have done a full episode on Jaws 2 that I've not had a chance to listen to yet. So maybe you discuss this, but like there was 2 windows of time, I guess, across 2 weekends that Spielberg
He
considered doing
did.
Jaws
Yes.
2.
Yes.
And he was like, maybe I'll come back and maybe I'll do something. And I think that, you know, once Jaws 2 comes out, like Roy Scheider didn't want to be in
Hmm.
Jaws 2, like, but he was. And then after that, he was like, you cannot pay me enough money. I will never
Nope.
go back. Was taking jobs to make
That's right.
sure he was
That's
busy
right.
to not be in Jaws 3. So I think once they realized like Spielberg's really not coming back, none of the original people of the cast are coming back. It can't be on Amity. The producers who owned the rights were like, let's make it a comedy. And they contacted the National Lampoon people post Animal House. And I assume that you saw this. One of the people who wrote the first draft of the script was
Yep.
John Hughes in his vacation era.
Which would have been great. It's
Guys
fitting in
as
Universal
a
lot.
Lampoon writer.
You got to go break into
Yeah.
the lot and find this draft script that's in there.
Get on the orca. Maybe Spielberg is
That's
in there
true,
crying, as apparently he says he does in the documentaries. So yeah, but it was Spielberg who was like, don't ruin the franchise, don't ruin the
And then
legacy
ultimately,
by making it a joke.
ultimately,
Right. Yeah, he thought it wasn't, it would be too insincere. But yeah, there's something to this. In fact, to your point about Jurassic Park, that is what I was thinking about afterwards. When I was like, yeah, like, let me look at Michael Crichton. Like, when was he
right?
writing
Yeah.
Jurassic Park? Is there any chance he was like, I saw Jaws 3. It was like, what if I did this with dinosaurs? But apparently he started writing it before this movie came out, because this movie came out
Well,
in
wink, wink. He
83.
might have. Yeah, sounds like some Lucas talk there. You know,
Maybe. Yes.
I had the
Revisionist
idea for
history.
Star Wars all planned out from the start. You know, I
Right.
wasn't figuring out things as I go.
Yeah.
Maybe he had this idea and then he saw Jaws 3 and was like, "Hey, yeah, that's onto something there."
Bam.
Um, and it's funny that you bring up the Jaws 2 about, yeah, because Spielberg did have a chance where there was a chance he might have come back to it. And speaking of breaking into the Universal lot, apparently over those 2 weekends he wrote a full script for a Quint backstory, which would have been about the Indianapolis. So that
Mm-hmm.
would have been the movie, which I think would have been brilliant. And I'm sad that they've never at least utilize that script. Don't make it about Quint and all that stuff, but just make a great Indianapolis film, which I think is just sitting out there for Hollywood. You know, they're mining like World War II stories like No Tomorrow over the last 80 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as we approach, 90 and 100 years since the war, that's a very interesting story there, especially post Oppenheimer.
Yeah. I feel like the two ideas that I saw, because there was a time in pre-production when Spielberg was maybe going to be a part of it. Then there was a time, like, I don't know if it was actual production or if it was just before production, when the original director left.
Well, that was like, a month after they were started filming.
Okay, so they'd already started filming, and that director wasn't working, so he got let go. And then Spielberg was like, okay, maybe I'll step in. But that, like, in one of those times, he also was like, maybe the movie should be about the kid, like Quint and Hooper
kids,
and Brody all have kids.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so interesting that Spielberg basically, in a couple weekends in 1978, like, made the outlines for all legacy sequels. It's like, either go 30 years back or go 30 years in the future, and like, let's figure it out and let's go from there.
Yeah, for sure.
And then but then they didn't make either of those. And
a man ahead of his time.
Yeah, he was. I mean, the man had box office instincts. Didn't hit every time. I've still never seen 1941, but someday I will. But I've been watching some other peak Spielberg movies, and God, they're so good.
No, you had to. What's the 1989 classic? Always, is that it?
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough.
Peak Spielberg.
Greg Cass, another co-host from the Long Take Review, has not forgiven me for mentioning that when I was like, oh, what would people like if they like Jaws? I was like, all the big Spielberg movies between Jaws and Jurassic Park. And he was like, so you include Always? Are you including Always in that? I'm like, I don't think that's a big movie, is my defense. But
and who can forget his classic take on The Color Purple?
I mean, I've again, another one never seen, but I feel like people like that movie. It got like 10 Oscar nominations, so I don't know.
It did well. It's just I don't know if you've seen the Spielberg documentary that HBO did a few years ago. And I think he's just very honest about, like, I don't know if I was the right guy for that at the time.
Yes.
Very much a self-aware analysis of maybe
That's
white
fair.
man should not take on very very poignant black story.
Point taken, Stephen. It's a good good self-awareness, as you say.
And they go straight back to punching Nazis and Indiana Jones after that.
Hell yeah.
his wheelhouse there.
Yes.
As well as, Hook and the double feature, Schindler's List, Jurassic Park.
Right. I mean, yeah. How can you even choose the order there?
How can you? That's right. Pick one. Great. Well, let's dive into arguably what I think this might be the most intellectual question of this bunch here. And I'd always try to find, like, where are the ways that I can make a conversation a bit more scholarly when we talk about these films. And this one might have been my hardest stretch of every 200 plus episode that I've done this far. So this is interesting, and I just laughed as I typed it out and phrased it all here. So as you noted, this film is set at SeaWorld, and it was filmed here at SeaWorld too. So I do live in Orlando, about maybe 15 minutes away from where it was filmed at SeaWorld right now. Um, and whether it intends to or not, it continues this trend of capitalism as an enemy in the Jaws films. So, what do you think that this film in particular has to say about late stage capitalism?
I mean, it's gonna get you.
It's gonna get you.
That's what it says. Is it's gonna swim right up,
There's always a bigger
and
fish. Yeah.
it's gonna break through that window, and it's gonna drown you. So that's how it comes.
We have enough time where everyone could recognize the fish is coming at us, and it will do a pause on each person's face as
Yeah,
to capture the
but no one
moment.
can do anything. No one can do anything to stop it.
Why did they
All we
just like why did they build a whole underground like headquarters complex there? We're like that's mission control right there.
right. Yeah, it's like the supreme confidence in their underwater
Yeah, this just total
construction, building
hubris.
construction, is they're like, we'll put the safety stuff down there too. Like, that's of course. Like, that's well, why would we put it next to the water? Why would we put it on land? Everything's going to be so safe. There's never going to be a problem. I will say the biggest surprise for me in this viewing was if you had asked me when we last talked about Jaws, and I had not yet rewatched this movie, and you said, I will give you $100 if you tell me something that happens in Jaws 3. What I would have told you was there's a big scene that's like a big 3D effects scene where Jaws, and I'm just going to refer to the shark as
Yeah,
Jaws, even
as
though
you
I
should.
don't think, but then I feel like I'm like being unfair to the real Jaws, which is the Jaws from the first
Oh,
Jaws.
true.
Um, and then I was like, well, that Jaws is Bruce, but apparently they also called this shark Bruce because of the traditions.
Mhm.
Anyway, so anyway, as the shark is like slowly coming it towards the camera with the 3D effects, and it crashes through a window, I would have been convinced it was in the restaurant
Yeah,
and not
which
in
also
the
happened.
control room.
So I mean, it's fair to.
But he doesn't break in through the window of the restaurant. He's just seen from the restaurant,
Well,
I
he
think.
he like tries to get in,
Oh, okay.
and he like breaks some of the glass, but he doesn't break all of it, and it starts flooding it.
Okay. So maybe you would have given me like $50
So
of the
like, yeah, I
100,
would have given you half of it.
if
That's
that's what you
fair.
were
That's
offering.
fair. We'll split it even.
Uh, yeah. But anyway, yeah. I mean, there is something interesting. This was the question that got me being like, oh, yeah, this is proto Jurassic
Hmm.
Park, and Jurassic Park just did it better. Of the like, look, we have this business, and the business is to get people in to do this stuff, and we're pushing the boundaries of technology, and we're by extension we're kind of pushing the boundaries of safety, but like we don't we present it as we've tested it all out and we're totally safe. But as soon as there might be an issue, they're like, you'll just figure it out. Like,
Hmm.
don't
Hmm.
worry about it. Like
Yeah,
Louis Gossett Jr. doesn't thinks it's all manageable because he doesn't want to, hurt his big opening. He doesn't want to
that's right.
sacrifice any of the money he's going to make from this, which of course only leads to more and more disaster and more uh, uh, pitfalls, and presumably even worse press for this. When they reopen this after they rebuild the tunnels in like 18 months after this all happens, I'm assuming the stories are not as positive as the right before the events of this movie. So yeah, I mean, it's like that's definitely there, and there is something interesting in the sort of evolution of the mayor, and the mayor being like, and the people who own the
Hmm.
businesses being like, well, I don't know if we want to address this, or let's I'm focused on the beaches being open in Jaws, which does feel like it's rooted in a sort of Watergate,
Sure.
like
Yeah.
Nixon, like, oh, we can't really trust, and like Vietnam, we can't really trust
Can't
what the
trust our
government's
authority
saying
figures.
now.
Yeah.
They're gonna make Yeah, they're making weird choices. I don't know about that. And now we're in like a Reagan era,
Hmm.
like,
Everything is gold. Yep.
greed is
McDonald's and
greed is
everything. Bring it
good.
on.
Yeah, and so it's like instead it's kind of like, well, it's the company, and you can't really trust that. But yeah, it's certainly, I appreciate the mining, the raking you were doing
Hmm.
at the bottom of the tanks at SeaWorld to dig up this intellectual
Yes.
question to be like, what do we have down here? Oh, we can do late stage capitalism. It's there. I think there is something there, but it's interesting in that, like, I would doubt anybody associated with the movie would
Mhm.
identify that as like, as would identify this as a critique of capitalism. So it's interesting how much, like, the business guys don't care about you and they'll let you die if it will make them some more money, or they'll risk everyone's health and safety if it will give them more of a
Yeah,
profit, is just so ingrained in our narratives
for
and in our
sure.
stories and maybe in our mindsets that, like, sure, of course it's baked in without really
Yeah,
much thought.
absolutely. I mean, it's an interesting progression, right? You like you said, it's the mayor and it's the businesses and this kind of coercion, corruption, if you will, saying like, keep the beaches open. We one day is like 2 weeks. We cannot lose the summer
Right.
dollars, and then it becomes we need a hotel slash condo on the beach in Jaws 2, and Brody running around saying shark is ruining the real estate of
Right.
the urbanization and suburb. I guess the that
Hmm.
would be the '70s exodus from the cities, creating the suburbs outside
Sure.
of metropolitan areas and all that, or at least finding that. Probably for that, it would be finding the second or third space, right? Getting my rental property on the beach or something like
Right.
that. Beachfront is hot. Let's get it up and running here.
Hmm.
And then I don't know when SeaWorld opened, but it does make sense that it would be next to, like, all right, theme park it up. Like, it seems like a logical progression of these films. Again, it just isn't executed well. And my question, I guess, is like, what did SeaWorld have to gain from this here? Like a real
I
organization
mean,
here, and it's definitely they don't like call it like Sea Villa or something like that. That's literally called SeaWorld. And like,
yeah.
whether the film is great and it has like that same thing of like people are afraid to go in the water because of Jaws, right? Maybe they're afraid to go to SeaWorld because they could get eaten by a shark, right? Or the film is so bad in this case, right, that it's critically panned. No one really remembers it or loves it. Maybe it's the benefit to them that no one remembers it, but if they remember it and they're like, well, it's at SeaWorld, like, that's tainting our image here. Like, why are we connected to something like this here? So I think it worked out for them, I guess, like that no one remembers it, but it just
Yeah.
doesn't seem like a win in their part.
Uh, uh, yeah. So this is I wouldn't even call it half-assed. This is quarter-assed research of just glancing at the Wikipedia page. But SeaWorld opened in 1973.
Yeah, okay.
So 10 years before the release of this movie. In 1976, it was sold to Harcourt Brace Jovanovich, which
Mhm.
is a publishing firm. And then in 1989, which is, of course, after this movie came out, it was sold to Anheuser-Busch, who also owned Busch Gardens. And so because the beer company had developed Busch Gardens well, that, I guess, in like after 89 was when SeaWorld like got competitive as
Mm,
like one of the Orlando theme parks. It wasn't like
okay.
it's Disney World and there's Universal Studios.
Well,
And then
Universal wasn't even open by
SeaWorld.
this time, interestingly
Oh, okay.
enough.
Maybe Busch Gardens was open by
Busch
then though.
Gardens would probably be in Tampa, so less than an hour
Oh, that's
away.
right. Okay. So yeah, I guess yeah, I guess it was just yeah, whatever. It was just Disney World.
Yeah.
Or even just maybe just Magic Kingdom
And it
at
would
that
have just
point. I
yeah, it
don't
would have
even know
been
if
Disney World and Epcot or Magic Kingdom and Epcot, so just two of the parks
yeah.
at that time. So it's still in its infancy.
Yeah. But so I wonder if being owned by a publisher and just sort of being this, like, maybe it was sort of like a smaller thing than we think of it,
Mhm.
and they were kind of like, sure, like there'll be some publicity, even though,
We'll take it.
like,
No press is
if
bad
everything
press.
you know about this movie is, well, it's run by people who don't care about the safety of its guests, you might die, there's a chance you're gonna get trapped underwater, and no one's really paying attention,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
it's but they get their killer whale, like, and dolphin
Yeah.
cameos,
They
so
get the hits.
I guess that was enough. I don't know.
I
um
would listen. Take me into a DeLorean back to
mm,
these boardroom scenes where they're like talking about it, and they're like, "We're gonna make a lot of money. That people are gonna love this film," and then just like the fallout of like, oh, "It's not
yeah.
the hit we wanted it to be. It's not well loved."
I mean, although again, it made money. I would be curious to see, was there a spike in attendance
Yeah, that'd be
after
interesting.
after that? Was that was there a notable change compared to the year over year data of the
Hmm.
before and after?
And the
Um,
question: did they have sharks before and or after this? Like,
it's a good point.
did they in coordination with this have a Shark Tank now that people could visit and see it?
Th- this movie definitely made it seem like an aquarium
No,
would
no
never have a
one's had a
shark.
shark. This is the first time a
You're
great
like,
white has
wait,
ever been
what?
captive.
I mean, they do have the like the shots where there's like a few other kinds of sharks around,
Hmm.
and so I guess the idea was like gray whites either couldn't be with other sharks or
Hmm.
whatever.
Hmm.
But it was like that. I was curious. I was like, is that true, or is that like the people making the movie being like, they won't know. The audience isn't going
That's
to
true.
know.
The apex
How many of them have
predators.
gone to an aquarium? Yeah.
Having been to many an aquarium, I can tell you that sharks can easily coexist with each other in the same
Yeah.
environment.
But maybe they didn't know that in
That's true.
1982,
They
83.
were. That lady was figuring it out on the fly what to do with the
Yeah.
baby one.
Yeah.
They're like, keep it on its back. No, it's still alive. It needs to be held in this captive space, and I think that said something about the greediness of Calvin, Louis Gossett Jr.'s
Mm-hmm.
character, where disregarding the advice of the Marine staff to then take the baby shark, and then put it on display and then basically shock it in the new water without having the care and attention
Mm-hmm.
that it needs to, and that's why it dies. Um, which we'll do what we can just for the money. If people see it
Yeah.
on display,
Anthony,
we'll raise ticket prices.
does that seem realistic? The business people not listening to the scientists
Where have I heard
about
that
like what's
before?
safe? Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe ask the
Uh,
paleontologists what they think.
yeah. Um, yeah, but like, again, maybe, well, you know what? I'm going to wait. I'm going to hold off on what I was going to say because I got to save it for one of the later
Oh,
questions
okay.
of, yeah,
Well,
I'll let you know when I come back to it.
okay, interesting. We'll transition from the late stage capitalism then, and we'll talk about the 3D nature of it all here. And it's the selling point of this movie, but it's arguably the most jarring part of this film, especially in 2025. Heck, even in 2008, maybe even in 1982. I don't know. It'd be interesting to be in the movie theater with like the very poorly 1980s red and green 3D glasses I'm sure they gave out to people, but those 3D elements, man. This film was a part of a trend of 3D films. I'm thinking Amityville 3D, Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D.
Mm-hmm.
And especially part 3 seemed to lend itself to the use of this 3D technology at the
I mean,
time.
it's right
So
there. They're begging
it's in the
for it.
title. That's right. That's right. Beyond that, right? Why do you think the third installments in franchises lend themselves to be susceptible to this format?
Well, that's a very good question. That I'm pretending I didn't know in advance. But I think that there's something to, we are so used today to seeing trilogies or movie series where people went into them with
Hmm.
the intention of, I'm making a trilogy or I'm
Hmm.
making a series of movies.
Hmm.
Whereas I think a lot of times in this era we're talking about, late 70s, early 80s, it was more like, we'll make sequels of movies if the movie is successful.
Okay.
And maybe I shouldn't say that's a mind, that mindset is true today. That mindset was true in the like 30s. But
Right.
in particular, there was a like, okay, let's go, let's do this. And so Jaws comes out. Jaws is a self-contained story.
Yeah.
Friday the
Doesn't beg
13th
for a
is
sequel at all.
Friday the 13th, self-contained story. Amityville Horror, self-contained story. Friday the 13th at least does have like a jump scare at the end, hinting that there could be more to the story,
Hmm.
but whatever. But like, it's successful, and then they're like, great, let's do another movie. What should happen? And then they're trying to figure it out. And to varying degrees, I would contend Friday the 13th Part 2 is easily the best Friday the 13th movie.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
I thought that was successful. Whereas, of course, Jaws is Jaws. I don't think there's many people out there arguing Jaws 2 is the best Jaws movie.
I would be interested in finding that person.
Yeah. And so I feel like, the fact that we had these series that were, still in this moment where they were like, what are we doing here? How are we figuring it out? Is this sustainable? Then as now, the movie studios have like, now it's Marvel movies,
Mhm.
now it's the MCU. Then it was probably James Bond, where they were like, we could
Sure.
just make these
Keep
movies
it going.
forever. Every 2 years, do one of these movies and bank, whatever the profit amount of 50 million,
That's right.
100
Tie it
million.
into what the hot thing is of the
Yep.
current age, right? Black exploitation. We'll send them to space. We'll do what must be done.
Yeah. And so, I guess I now again, not like super in-depth research, but I was skimming through the Wikipedia page that like there was a Western that came out called Coming at Ya, which
Oh,
used 3D technology that like
Ayo.
had been like a big deal in the 50s and 60s, but they were like, let's bring it back. And that was
Mm,
1980, 81. Uh,
a recent
I'm trying to get
trend.
81. And so then it was like, oh, people will go to the movies to see this. There's also the perpetual since the late 50s, early 60s. How do we get people to not just watch TV
Mhm.
and to come to the movies? And that's, 3D has these cycles of being the answer to that,
It
of
sounds
like,
like every
this will
30
get
years,
people
you know?
right. We'll get folks to come in and do this. And so, you combine the fact that it's the hot trend and you also are like kind of floundering to figure out what to do with your movies. And it's the third movie. So it's like 3D is
Why
like
not?
begging to be in the title.
Yep.
So, I think that's how it all comes together. You may know this, Anthony, but your audience
Mhm.
doesn't. It's not what we're talking about. But I tend to forget this. Friday the 13th Part 3 in
Mhm.
3D, or
Mhm.
Friday the 13th in 3D, is the first movie that Jason has his hockey
It
mask in.
is. It is indeed
It's
because he has the
crazy.
bag
I
on his
always
face.
forget that.
Yeah. And
Yeah, he's got the bag in 2.
it's the most iconic of the looks, obviously. That's like
Yeah.
the pinnacle Jason that we think of. But yeah, and the
And he throws, like a machete right at you into the camera
now
as
also the kid that yo-yos does it right in the
yes,
face too, but I would argue that the 3D looks pretty good in that one.
sure.
Like it isn't as jarring as like the scenes here. Especially when you watch it in 2D, like you just like, okay, that was obviously a 3D gimmick that they did here.
It feels like every time, well, not every time, because I'm sure there must be other moments, but like there's so many times when it just like there's a scene happening and then it cuts to something else and it cuts back to what looks like whatever is clearly going to come at you in
Hmm.
3D is in front of a green screen,
Yep.
like a very like, but not like a movie studio green screen, like a local news weather person
Sure.
green screen.
Sure.
And then it starts moving and it gets closer towards you, or is like is thrown towards you,
Especially
or
in
whatever.
this one, right? Like
Yeah.
when the shark blows up at the end. Spoiler alert, everybody. All
Hmm.
those like pieces of it, of the shark, like the mouth and the
Yeah.
things, are just slow mo moving towards you.
I think those are his jaws.
The jaws, yes.
Hmm.
The jawses.
Yes. Just
You know, it's interesting that it took for the third one to have multiple Jaws, and
yeah,
yeah, I feel like Jaws 2 could have just been Jawses instead of
that's true.
Jaws 2. But Aliens hadn't come out yet for them to just jump on the trend of the sequel having more than one.
James Cameron hadn't written the dollar sign yet,
That's
so
right.
people didn't know.
I mean, it's just interesting that like everything. I'm just handing everything you say here, but it just kind of falls in that late stage capitalism thing again of like we're just trying to print
Yeah,
money here. We gotta get people out to this thing. What's the spectacle here? Let's make it 3D, put
yeah,
it in the theaters. Get Joe Alves is I think the director,
yeah. The
the
production
production
designer.
designer and
Yeah,
code and second unit director on Jaws 2. Like he's earned his promotion, but we won't have to pay him too much. We'll keep the budget low. We have a bunch of no name actors in this thing. Uh, who then go on to Dennis Quaid has a very storied career after
yeah,
this, so he didn't
sure.
ruin his career. um
I mean, this is I think the first. No, it isn't. It doesn't come out. No, I think it does. This is the first movie that comes out with Louis Gossett Jr. after he wins an
yeah,
Oscar.
see.
He wins for An Officer and a Gentleman, and then his next release, Jaws
Well, and
3D.
then we'll continue that trend with Michael Caine next week.
Yes. And I will note to also preview the Jaws the Revenge episode that like you may already know this because you've been doing your research, but that movie even more so than Jaws 3 is the like late stage capitalism. We need to like get this out because like the idea, like the studio head being like, you know what, we need another Jaws to the movie coming out was 10
Yep.
months.
Oh yeah.
Like all the screenwriting, all the casting, all the filming, all the editing, 10 months. Most movies now
You
would,
know,
you
they
know, they
went
would
straight
take
into that 80s
2.5 to
model
3 years.
of like, we got to have the next horror movie out by Halloween next year, right? So whether it's a Friday the 13th and a Nightmare on Elm Street, a Halloween film, we got to make it as soon as it comes out, right? It's got to be out next year. 6 months of 1 month of writing, 6 months of shooting, post-production, get it out.
If anybody is a fan of the Apple TV Plus show Slow Horses, like that's their production model is basically what all these franchises were, or a lot of these franchises.
Is that the Gary Oldman one
in the 80s? Where it's the Gary Oldman one, and they're just constantly filming.
I appreciate that so much in this day and age.
Yeah. When a season ends, they have a trailer at the end of the last episode for the next season because they've already filmed 3/4 of it. They just announced the 7th season, and they just stopped airing the 4th. So it's like they're just always turning it over, and they've got these books, and the cast is into it, and it's great.
This is my subtle plug for Apple TV Plus, everybody. It just seems to be that streaming service that it's not making any money, but they do believe in the work and the art that they're producing, whether it be your Severance, your Masters of the Air. I'm watching The Studio on it currently, which I'm loving the heck out of. It's got random dad history TV shows that I like to enjoy a lot, like your Ben Franklin with Michael Douglas, and the one about hunting John Wilkes Booth. Like it's got some sleeper hits on there that people aren't. You jump in your Napoleons and your F1s on there and get people on board. But it rocks.
If anybody's into the idea of the Indianapolis prequel.
Oh, that's right.
Not
the Greyhound.
Just for the Sharks, but for World War II. Tom Hanks's Greyhound is not
apparently
bad.
Getting a sequel.
Like it does the job. Yeah, I mean, Greyhounds. Dollar sign.
It's printing money. Greyhounds. That's right. That's right. I can't wait for the sequel F2. Or F1s.
Or will it be F1 the movies?
The movies. That's right. That's right.
They just added. That's Napoleon. Where they add the S. Oh God.
Oh, no. I do have I did listen to that episode of the Long Take Review. I gotta tell you all, the extended cut is pretty darn good. The 4-hour cut really solves a lot of the problems that you guys are saying. So I will just plug that. If you ever have an afternoon you need to dump.
I have purchased but still not watched the 4-hour version of Kingdom of Heaven, an earlier Ridley Scott movie that it's
also
supposed to be
the problems,
like that's a movie that where the movie came out, people were like, this isn't very good, and the director's cut came out and folks were like, this might be like, this is the answer to, if you think it's clear Alien and Blade Runner are his 2 best movies, what's his 3rd? A lot of people say Kingdom of Heaven director's cut is an answer. So I need to watch that before I commit to Napoleon 4 hours, which after because I haven't seen the original Kingdom of Heaven, so I don't have disappointment carried with me. Whereas the Napoleon was not. That was a bummer.
Oh man, theater. I can only imagine seeing it in the theater. I tried, but it just didn't happen. What do you mean you don't put House of Gucci as his number 3rd film?
I know, but the movie that speaking of the directors releasing 2 movies in the same year.
That's right.
The Last Duel.
I love The Last Duel.
I rate that quite a bit. I think that movie's quite good.
I got that on the 4K right over here.
I did rewatch Gladiator when the new one, the Gladiator 2 is coming out, and the original Gladiator is really
it's my wife's favorite film. Yep, we watched. I mean,
it's a good choice. It's solid.
That's prime Ridley right there.
Yeah.
But speaking of director's cuts, do you think there's a director's cut of Jaws 3D that makes it a better film? Do you think there's a cut in the Universal lot that is like hidden from us that could tie up all these loose ends that were like, oh, I wonder if that had an extra scene or two. Would that redeem this film in your eyes if there was like a better,
Mm,
longer cut, or is 90 minutes of this enough?
the latter, I think. But all due respect to everyone who made no one goes into making a movie with the intention of making
No,
it not be
absolutely
good.
not.
They all are trying their hardest, and we had a guy who was a phenomenal production designer, and a great guy by all accounts. Everyone likes him. He always seems chill and fun on every Jaws documentary. Who had kind of wanted to direct
Hmm.
and been like bringing it up,
He wanted direct Jaws
and gets
too.
the
Yeah,
opportunity. Yeah, that was one of the floating was him and Verna Fields
Verna. Yeah,
co-directing it when the
and the
director
DGA was like,
crisis
heck no.
erupted. Right, they're like, wait a minute, we've got rules. But I think that the all the issues we were talking about behind the scenes combined with a brand new director
Hmm.
who's figuring things out. I don't think there's actual footage that could be reassembled to
Hmm.
make this
Hmm.
movie better. I would be very curious to read the original screenwriter Richard
Yeah,
Matheson,
yeah.
who was brought in to work on this. Who's got he's got some interesting credits that are out there. He wrote I Am Legend,
Yeah.
and he wrote the Omega Man, the original story of that. So he's been doing things. He's out here doing stuff, and
Basically before the Gottlieb
he claims
rewrite.
right. He claims his original screenplay is good, which I mean, very easy for everyone to be
Everyone
like,
says
my
that.
stuff was
Yeah,
really good.
when I wrote it
Yeah,
first
I'm
and
sure
didn't have people rewriting and all that stuff.
yes, I'm sure Carl Gottlieb was like, my version actually was really good too. But I'd be curious what his like someone with that kind of background in like hard
Hmm.
sci-fi and had stories made into Twilight Zone episodes, that kind of a mindset, how they would have told this story.
Right.
Because yeah, that could be really interesting, and this is what I was going to say earlier, and I was holding it for the is there
Okay. Okay.
a
Yeah.
redeeming thing? And it's that like I'd be very curious to see what does this movie look like if the opening scene is them finding the baby shark
Hmm.
and being like, we have a baby shark and let's take it in. And then everything else has to follow from that.
Yeah.
And we meet all the characters through that
Through the lens of
being
that.
like a
Yeah.
thing. And then like we could get more of more time spent and more of a clear sense of like this apparently very unrealistic
Hmm.
compared to the reality of the nature of sharks, that like that there's a mother shark that would be like my baby. I guess sharks are like, this thing comes out of me and good luck, I'll see you
Well,
later.
you know,
I'll see you down the
it's
road.
honestly more believable than a shark having a vendetta against the Brodies and chasing them all the way down to Jamaica.
Well, now according to everybody who made that movie, it's intentionally vague whether that's
Echolocation
true
is
or
a
not.
real thing.
Even it was, yeah, sorry, my rewatch of Jaws: The Revenge was mostly because I don't think I'd seen that since I was a child, and my rewatch was mostly like, oh, that's why there was all those weird things in the Nintendo
Hmm.
game. Like there was the echo sonar. You were like your currency was conch
Yeah.
shells, the people you were picking up, and you had to stab the shark with the front of your
Hmm.
boat in the end sequence. Wild. Apparently it wasn't a movie. It wasn't just like some video game designer made all that up, like the ET video game. It wasn't that. It was actually from the movie. But yeah, I wonder if then we could have had maybe like the mother shark built up a little bit more,
Hmm.
like doing more like searching. And maybe I'm already starting to realize like the effects could not like sustain
Nope.
this, but just like if like they find the baby shark somewhere and then you see someone else go there and that's who gets eaten by the shark. Like if it's all tied to the baby shark from the
Hmm.
beginning, like could that have given it a little bit more momentum and then tried to be like the shark is protecting its baby, the new theme park is the baby of all these people and they're trying to like maybe like could there have been like threads that could have tied together, but I don't think you can do that with the footage as it exists. I think that's like a page one rewrite idea
Yeah.
to
No,
try to really
I think that's fair.
overhaul it.
I think this could have used a page one
Yes.
rewrite to probably make it better. But films are written. That's one way to make a movie. Then films
Yeah.
are shot. That's another way. And then they're edited. And that's another way.
Yeah.
So who knows where things went wrong or started going wrong potentially with this film, and maybe why it's not the most memorable of any. It's probably the one remembered most for the wrong reasons of
Yeah.
perhaps all the Jaws films. I think by the fourth one, people are just more checked out than anything because of this one, right? I think that especially when you have Michael Caine as a character named Hoagie, that's a
Oh yeah.
just
Hoagie just telling stories,
just
hanging
telling
out,
stories and flying around and trying to,
macking on Ellen
that's
Brody.
right, Miss Brody, just having dates with the ladies that come down. um yeah, I don't know. Are there redeemable aspects of this film? I think there are fun beats of it. I do like the theme park aspect of it all. I think that's where it gets most interesting. Like, I think for a lot of Jaws 1, I love the mayor and just his
Mm.
machinations and motivations behind things, and just seeing him bumble around scenes is really enjoyable. So I like seeing Calvin trying to see the dollar signs through his eyes, basically, when an opportunity arises, and like, oh, of course they would have this underwater lounge restaurant high end thing where they'd eat shrimp cocktail and look out at the fish in the lagoon, and of course they would have some like huge water skiing program that is like a big marquee event, and they would have this like lagoon underwater. And I think then those poor people that are trapped in that thing for seemingly like 8 hours would be a huge lawsuit. They
Yes.
may never recover from that type of experience because those people have been in knee deep, not even knee deep. That is like waist deep water.
And it's not like pool water.
No,
That's like processed aquarium
it's
water.
barely processed because aren't they just like taking water from the ocean and like just through a gate? It's
Yeah.
like it's all just seawater.
Yeah. It's yeah. But yeah, though that like that was tense.
Like
Like there
those
was like, oh,
disaster
there's
moments,
tension
I think
here.
are pretty interesting, and where Dennis Quaid has to like run through the entire park telling people that everything's going haywire and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's where it works best, and then just the 3D elements are like, all right.
Yeah. I also feel like and maybe this is why I sort of gotten like as I was watching it, I was getting this like this needed to start like at this point so we had more time later because that last
Hmm.
like 15 or 20 minutes is where all the most interesting stuff
Got it.
happens.
Yeah,
But it's also really feels really rushed
yeah. For
and
a film that
and
drags to
and
get
also
there.
feels like it's pushing. Have you seen the meme where there's like someone's drawing a horse and as it gets towards the back of the
Yes. Yeah.
horse it gets more
Yep.
and more like a sketch,
Yep.
like a little kid sketch. That's kind of what the special effects budget felt like in this movie, where it was like, okay, like things are going well, this is fine, and then like we maybe it's partially just like you see more of the shark,
Hmm.
you have more 3D effects for the climax, and all this stuff is unfolding, but like it definitely is like, oh, this is looking worse and worse
Mm.
every minute, and also none of these moments can really breathe, and we're kind of rushing through these things, which again, I think you're right. Like ultimately, I agree with you. On paper, there's stuff here that's good. There's
Yeah.
stuff here that
For
like
sure.
this could work. Maybe the original sin of this movie, then this is far from the only one, is it was being made with a release date in mind, and so
Gotta
they
get it
had to
out.
keep they had to hit a moment where it's like we got to go, we got to just get into filming, we got to stop filming because this, or we're racking up money, we got to move,
Hmm.
and not just say we got to shut it down and wait, because sometimes it seems like the only thing you can do is, all right, let's hit the pause button and see, like, we've got these ingredients for a movie, we have not figured out how to actually
Right.
make this. But there's also, these are even when studios are run by like film lovers who are like, we're in charge of this, there's also sort of like
Yeah.
some of this is just product we're churning out. This is not an
Gotta
art.
make
We're not
money.
going to get Oscar nominations. Let's go.
Yeah. If we
Like, it
didn't win
doesn't
for
really
Jaws 1,
matter.
we're not winning for Jaws 3D.
Right. Right.
I think Spielberg talks highly of Sid Sheinberg, who was the head of Universal at that time, and for as much as he took Spielberg under his wing and said, "Here, take these projects," and gave him
Mhm.
literally Schindler's Ark, the book, and was like, "This is the film you need to make." At the same time that he's given him that book, this film is also in production. So,
Right. this comes out a year before he sends the infamous Back to the Future memo.
Mm.
Have
No,
you
I don't
have
know
you heard
about
this
this one.
one?
Tell me.
So I mean, there's an example of a movie that is has become and stands, I think, for many people as an all-time
Yeah.
classic. My feelings on Back to the Future, I've always loved it, but I also really, it's one of those movies that I have grown with. My respect for it has grown because I teach college students,
Mm.
and it's one of those movies from my childhood that they still watch and
Got it.
care about. Like, there's and part of it is it shows up on Netflix and like whatever's
It's
on the
on.
front
Yeah.
page of Netflix, but it's like Back to the Future and Ferris Bueller's Day Off are two movies that like
It
you
speaks
could
to the
reasonably
child
assume,
ethos. Yeah.
yes, teenagers have still seen it and can connect with it
Mhm.
in some ways. But that's a movie where they'd filmed 80+% of it. They'd filmed 5.5, 6 weeks with Eric Stoltz.
That's
They're like,
right.
this
Yeah,
isn't
okay,
working.
yeah.
We're shutting it down. And we're gonna, we gotta do a reshoot, and their original actor will now be available. And so they could bring in Michael J. Fox. But I think it was when they were filming the later parts with Michael J. Fox, they sent Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale, who co-wrote it with Zemeckis, and I guess the two of them had to send in the rushes of
Hmm.
the movie to go and be looked at by the studio because they'd wasted a bunch of money making the movie with somebody else. And so Sid Sheinberg sent a memo back that was kind of like, okay, like this part's good, this is good, like this part, I don't know, like, could you maybe tweak that? But the big note at the end was, I don't like the title Back to the Future. I don't think it makes sense. I don't think anyone's going to understand it. I don't think they're going to connect to it. I've been thinking about it, and I think this movie needs to be retitled The Saucer Man from Mars, which is the name of the 50s comic book that George McFly is reading when
Oh,
he
wow.
sees Marty. And so the whole movie would be called The Saucer Man from Mars or something like that, or whatever the title of that comic is. And it's something like that. It's a very 50s sci-fi kitschy
Mhm.
thing. And Zemeckis and Gale, I guess, were just like, we're done, we're cooked. Like this movie's gonna fail. No one's gonna
It's a
see
horrible
that. But
title.
we also
Yeah.
can't say no, because who are
To
we?
tell this
Like,
boss.
we haven't really done much. And so they talked to Spielberg, who was producing it, and Spielberg was like, I'll take care of it. And he wrote a memo back saying, "Dear Sid, we loved the joke. It was really funny. Everyone cracked up. You're hilarious. Great job." Everyone thought it was
Mhm.
really funny that you would even like pretend to make a suggestion like that. And he knew that Sid Sheinberg would not like want to say like it wasn't a joke, I'm being
Yeah.
serious, because he would then think everyone was laughing at him. So he just dropped it and never brought it up again.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And that's why it's still called Back to the Future.
And the brilliance of Spielberg again, popping in.
Yeah. The
Producer,
man's magic.
director, writer. What can't this
Bam,
man
bam,
do?
bam.
He's just a jack of all trades, and he never stops working. Even at
Yeah.
almost 80, the man will keep going.
Yeah.
And
Long
and
may he
boy,
run.
will he? Yeah, for forever. Keep that man. Pump him with all the dark side fluid that Palpatine stays alive with, and
Yes.
and keep him making films. I think we're all in favor of that.
Yeah, he needs those little slugs on his forehead.
That's right, exactly. So we talked a bit here about the things that work for us. We've also talked already about things that don't necessarily work for us in this film. But are there any other things that you want to highlight specifically that make this film a lackluster project overall for you?
I mean, now I kind of just feel like we're just kicking this poor movie while it's down. It's it just never feels like it's focusing in on a story.
Mhm.
It also feels like they've and now I don't remember this, and maybe you do from the production of it. I wonder how late in the process they were like, this guy's the son of Roy Scheider from the original movie. Like,
From the
it
start,
feels like
that was a
guy-
universal thing.
Okay.
From like
Wow.
that was a mandate that has to involve the Brody kids.
because that feels so like almost like ADR, like voiceover tacked on. They're like Dennis Quaid and his girlfriend are walking on the beach. Wait, his girlfriend. I do want to talk about this for a second, because we're watching it, and Jasmine, my girlfriend, was like, "Wait a minute, this is the mom from Seventh Heaven," and I was like,
Really?
"No, it's the lady from Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home, the the oceanologist, the oceanographer, and then we looked it up, and no,
It's
she's the
neither.
mom from My So-Called Life, and but the woman who's in Seventh Heaven and in Star Trek 4 is the same woman.
So
And
you were both
so
right, just not
we
about
were
this
both
particular
right.
lady.
Yes. And we were just like, they both have this like very similar like mom energy, even when they're
Hmm.
like the young, like kind of, attractive romantic interest in an 80s movie. They still have big mom energy and these like huge smiles and just seem very like calming and comforting.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway,
Bess
Dennis Quaid's
Armstrong.
talking to yes, Dennis Quaid is talking to Mrs. My So-Called Life. And he's just sort of like, well, my brother was traumatized.
Yep. Yep.
They do kind of erase Jaws too. They're like, one bad thing happened, and I'm like, dude, two bad
A
things
lot of bad
happened.
things
He
happen.
was like watching people get eaten in Jaws too. So that feels very tacked on. We were talking about this off mic or pre-recording, that like they're like a little too interested in each other.
Mhm.
Like there's so much like hugging. When Sean shows up, he's like kissing his brother's
Yeah.
girlfriend on the
Yeah.
mouth. It's like, look at him swim, like look at him go, look at him like he's hooking up with a girl. Like
Yeah.
it's
Like, let's go
interesting.
watch them.
Yeah, like all right, I don't know. I'm an only child, so maybe that's how it works. But I feel like most people I know who have siblings don't want to watch them make out with a girl or a guy or whoever. They're like,
Yeah. Yeah. Let it
let's leave
go.
them
Let it
alone.
go.
Yeah. I'll also note that Leah Thompson's character, who was very clearly destined to die, does not respect boundaries,
No.
has no interest in like listening to this guy's trauma. She's just sort of like, yo, I'm not here
Yep.
for a long time. I'm here for a good time. I do not want to hear about what happened to you when you were 6 and you were building a sandcastle and you watched some dude's leg get bitten off and your brother almost get eaten. Like, whatever. Let's go make this happen.
Oh
And so,
yeah.
yeah, she had that like,
In between my
like,
breaks here, in between this this
right.
stunt show that I'm
She
doing.
had that horror movie floozy energy of like, oh, she's dead.
Yeah. Yeah. She definitely had, and this is like, 82, where they haven't really set the rules yet for
Yeah.
like the tropes of the genre, at least at this point. And like she's almost like a trendsetter of like the person that we were like, yeah, they're not making it out of this. They are cannon fodder for the beast.
Yeah. And like, I don't know. It is interesting to watch one of these movies when whenever you go further back in history. I mean, it doesn't even have to be that far, but you watch a movie and you realize, oh, these were a collection of new actors who had very little credits and were cast because they were quote unquote nobodies. And then to sort of see, well, which one of them
Mm-hmm.
are the people I know and which one of them aren't.
Yeah.
And there's some confirmation bias, but it is kind of clear of like, oh yeah, Dennis Quaid and Leah Thompson like not together, but just in their performances have something that the other two
Mm-hmm.
and the other young people that are around, the other sort of employees,
Yeah, they just don't have that
like
gravitas.
they're just kind of there.
Yeah.
They're okay. They all had careers. Again, Bess Armstrong, was had
She's not hurting. She's a
she's
brown
working,
graduate
she's working
too.
every year. Hey, all right. Shout out to Jen. See if
That's
she
right.
ever heard from Bess Armstrong as a fellow alum.
Fellow alum, reach out, connect.
And it's but it is sort of like, wow, yeah, they're even apparently Dennis Quaid doing the full Carrie Fisher in Return of the Jedi, being so high on cocaine that he's every shot that's in the movie that includes him, he's on cocaine, according to him.
Yeah.
It's
straight from
like
his mouth,
he's got
too.
charisma. Yes. Yeah. But he does have charisma, as does Leah Thompson. So, there's something to that. But yeah, it's just so scattered. And there's that one guy, like the early kill in this movie is that guy who's sent to go fix a gate.
Yeah, like the technician.
And then they bring him up later, and you're like, I was like, who? Like, and I was like, oh, the
like
one
been
guy who
40
died,
minutes.
of course.
No one
Like his
cared
wife
about
shows
him.
up and is like, yes, they tell this guy I don't care. And I'm like, who is she talking about? Is he talking about Sean? Like, what's Sean up to? But I was like, oh no, it's that guy who died. I forgot. Which is probably bad for your shark attack movie when you've already forgotten the one shark attack that happens in the first 70 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. Like, why I'm curious as to like why Michael Brody would choose this career path with
Yeah.
seemingly all the trauma that he would have experienced as a kid and then as a young teenager, which apparently Jaws 2 is only 4 years after the events of Jaws 1, even though he looks like
Mm.
he's like 10 years older. He had a
Yes.
big growth spurt in
Yeah.
those couple of years there. And then seemingly this is like another 6 years since Jaws 2, perhaps. Who knows?
Yeah, because he's like supposed to be like 23 or
Seems like he's
24.
a young professional. His brother's in
Yeah.
college, it seems like.
But yeah, it's like he's looking for like this kind of
But he wants that like
post grad
post grad
position.
internship kind of fellowship in
Yeah.
Venezuela.
It is interesting the like the to the degree that these sequels just contradict each other all the time. Like for some reason the decision was made of like the events of Jaws, and to the degree we care about Jaws 2, also the events of Jaws 2 have had disparate effects on the two brothers. Michael is just sort of like,
Mm-hmm.
now I'm super interested in understanding and learning about the ocean. And Sean is like, absolutely not. This sucks. I'm staying at home, or if I go out and go somewhere, I will never go into the water.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's interesting. It doesn't really track, and it does feel like, again, if they were, I, this is a bad thing to say, but if they were focused on making this movie good, which I think they were focusing on making this movie done, more than anything
Hit the
else, but if
deadline.
they're focused on making it good, that would have been like a place to be like, let's like pack that in, start the movie like immediately with the baby shark, pack in this weird like contradictory, like he studies the ocean, he wants to work in this field, but
Mm-hmm.
like how does he feel about sharks? Does he love sharks? Is he fascinated by them? Can he not stop like studying them because of what happened? Like we get so much about Sean's trauma in this, but it does kind of feel like Dennis Quaid is like, nerd,
Yep.
like get over it.
He needs to get over it.
Jesus.
Yeah, have fun. Make out with her.
Whatever. Yeah, dad's dead. Who cares? Let's go.
Yeah.
Actually, no, he's
He's
not
not
dead in
dead
this
yet.
movie,
He
right?
dies in the next one
Okay.
off screen.
Dad's fine. Let's get over
Yep,
it.
they're still on the island.
Yes. Just out of frame. At all the pictures on the wall we just can't see.
That's why we're down in Florida. We are in
Yes.
Florida. They are in the north.
It's true. Yes.
You know,
I do love the idea that Chief Brody never left the island, even though he hates the islands, he hates water, he had two traumatic experiences, but he's just sort of like, I feel like he's just stubborn.
that's right.
And I respect
That's right.
that.
You know, it's only an island if you look at it from the water.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it's just another plot of land.
It's true.
And he's honestly, as much as he seemingly hates the water, and overcomes that in Jaws 1, and then kind of regresses back a little bit in Jaws 2 to undermine that a little bit there.
Yeah. Well,
I gotta imagine the police gig on Amity is a pretty cushy job. So, in terms of just the work-life balance of it all and just getting a nice, easy paycheck, which I respect, I think,
yes.
versus being a New York beat cop,
Yes.
I think he'll take the pros and cons and weigh them there on that one.
I did rewatch The French Connection after all the sort of Jaws talk to get another Roy in my life, and I was like, if that was if we want to believe there's a spiritual connection, because he's a New York cop in that movie, it's like, man, yeah, this looks tough. This job doesn't look good, and people don't like.
Is that the prequel?
Yeah. So yeah, he changes his name to Brody, and
well, it was maybe it really was Brody, and that was just his undercover name.
Sure, yeah, that's fair.
You know, he had to get Ellen and the boys away from the hard scene of New York City.
Yeah.
You know, we joke, but I think the Venezuela plot line is a lackluster element of this. Like, you don't need to have it. You know, for a thing that's like 90 minutes, and they definitely were gunning for that 90-minute, 1 hour and 30-minute runtime in this movie. I think it's like 98 minutes or something like that. So it's just barely over that. I feel like some of these things could have been like trimmed down a bit because they introduced so many like subplots, right? That one being a thing. I listened to a podcast a few years ago called With Gorley and Rust. It's a great horror, easy listening podcast where they go in depth and talk like for 3 hours about like Jaws 3. and Jaws 4. So they really go a long way. There's a lot of side tangents and stuff, but it's enjoyable for the entirety of it. And they did pose the question about the Venezuela subplot, where they're like, "Did you think anybody in the theater in 1982 was just like, or 1983 was like, when she's like, I'll go with you to Venezuela at the end, did someone like jump up in the crowd and just, yes,
Yeah.
she's going with him. It paid off. She's
Yeah.
coming along.
Get
She's
out of
committed to
Florida.
him. Get out of Florida. That's right. It's like no one. I don't think they've really built up this thing that no one cares about it. So why introduce it? Don't check off gun this and then have no real payoff
Yeah.
afterwards about this thing. Like that's
It,
just a dumb thing.
it was definitely a degree of me sort of zoning out, but I was like, what?
They
Like,
keep
what is
bringing it
she
up, and they're
talking
like,
about?
"Well, I don't know about Venezuela. Have you
Right.
thought about Venezuela?"
Yeah, that's the thing. It does keep coming up, but when she's like, "Yes, I'll go with you to Venezuela," I was like, "Wait, why Venezuela? Oh, right, because he had that thing." Yeah, that's
Like,
fair.
don't bring this up while the shark is hunting you all, or like
Yeah.
you just survived this
It-
shark attack.
there's also I think I'm stealing this because you mentioned it earlier and I had kind of forgotten, but there is that kind of like Jacques Cousteau,
Yes,
Crocodile
who are these two
Hunter,
guys?
Steve Zissou, like
And they're like marketing professionals. What are their deal?
who just sort of who show up and
They're like a
are
jack of all trades. They know how to do everything. They can deep
kind
water
of
dive, and they're like marketing like gurus.
yeah, but it kind of seems like they're just like they kind of seem like they're like the like we're the hot shots who make people like we get people to pay attention to nature, blah 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 blah. We shouldn't like them. Like they're he's kind of the to pull a random legacy sequel reference that I'm sure Greg will appreciate, but he's like Glenn Powell in Twisters. I don't know if you
Yeah.
saw
Oh,
Twisters,
of course.
but he's the and I
Ain't no
know
love
there's
in
like
Oklahoma.
similar yes, there's similar people in the original movie where it's like they're not in it for the weather, they're in it for the money and the fame. It's like, okay, it's like they're not in it for the fish. This guy's in it for the notoriety. Uh, and, and it feels like he's supposed to be that, but it's also like he doesn't come across like he's a jerk. Especially when he's like, "Where's the real boss?" And she's like, "I'm the boss." He's like, "You're a lady."
Yeah.
Like, "Where's the man
Where's
boss?"
the real guy?
And she's like, "I'm the head biologist." Like, what are you talking about? But like beyond that, he just kind of seems like a just like a putz, just kind of wandering around and causing trouble, and then he gets eaten. And then his assistant buddy, who's is in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and is just like he's like a great like Cockney angry British guy in like British crime movies. He's like, where did he go? Like
he was right here. Where'd he go?
Yeah, I'm waiting for him. I'm waiting for him by the tunnel. That all felt like, well, we didn't need any of this.
But
like that just felt like another person to die.
You know what's the craziest thing? I'm like, the shark didn't digest him. They ate a whole person in between him, and he's just in the mouth still.
Yeah,
I
and there was
know.
that shot where he's in the mouth and the teeth are butting down, but it's like
just
did you intentionally did you slide past? Is this the defense mechanism? You slide past the teeth?
Yeah, it's like, was that your grand plan? Was that he'd go inside?
Well, he's like, I've seen the treatment for what happens to Boba Fett after Return of the Jedi. I think if I just stay in this Sarlacc long enough, I can make my way out, because it'll take him a long time to digest me.
I mean, that's
although apparently it's Corey Hooper 24 hours.
Yeah, exactly. It would still be in there. Like that's the thing that like is almost the most unbelievable part of this movie, especially towards the end there, where literally the dolphins come into play too and help out Dennis Quaid and love interest, who's going to Venezuela to get the shark off of them so that they can regroup and reassess. So like that, I'm just like, hey, whoa, he's still in there, and they just like chomped this whole guy. The poor guy that's the cannon fodder, basically, when they break through the glass there. He's just gets chomped entirely, and one of the biggest, goriest sequences, of the whole sequence there. And then shark opens his mouth, and this guy's still in there. Oh man,
like,
that just
that's where he went.
Yeah, that's where he is. That's where he is, buddy. Um, so there are a few shark attacks in this film. It does live up to the kind of like that horror sequence that it tries to live up to now. Um, which of them stands out to you the most? And that's me phrasing it in a way that didn't automatically just say which is your favorite kill of this movie.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, the one that stands out the most, as already mentioned, I guess, is when the shark breaks through the glass. Now, I didn't have a clear, firm memory of which glass he fully breaks through. But that attack and that sort of moment, that's the Jaws 3 image in my mind. Like, that's from when I saw it as a kid, that's like the one thing I remembered was the shark coming through. Because I like aquariums, and I like going. I was always like, oh, now I have to worry about a big shark breaking through and trying to eat.
And then you quickly forgot about it and didn't worry about it.
Yeah. Then I was just like, Jaws, what? Yeah. So that one, that's but like not positively, but I do remember that because it's in that end sequence where nothing is really going well, and like he does talk about seafood. He's showing that diver to the people, and
he's like, hey, yeah, this is a warning
Still
sign.
Got him. I just tucked him in my cheek for later. I want to save it.
This is my human pouch. This is where I just like gnaw on him here and there to get some flavor.
It's a scuba zing. He's just packed it in. But the ones that I think are like, I'm the most like, hell yeah, this is a Jaws movie and we're gonna see some attacks, are the water skiing ones.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Particularly the one with it's on the poster. It's the triangle and the fully, but even when it's like the guy doing the 1 foot board.
Yep.
And that's going around, like, that's a good solid shark attack sequence. It's not like a big deal. It's not overdone, but that feels like that's got some of that spirit of just sort of like, yeah, people are having a good time, but you know what? Like, things can change. The worm can turn, and suddenly you got got by a Jaws.
Capitalism will come and get you.
Those are the ones that those are the ones that I'll say. What about you?
Well, I think like you said, the one of the guy getting just completely chomped and the full shark weight of the Jaws mouth just going into that poor guy that thought he was just working today and then happened to be in the control room at the wrong time with everybody else, just getting completely obliterated. That might be the most goriest of the kills in all these films. That is by far it.
Okay.
It made me laugh just because of like the absurdity of it in this film. By that point, I was like, oh wow, they went there. And this poor guy that almost like we get no time with at all. We just kind of see him in the sequences, and he just gets it. Like, okay.
I will say that I know that it's a fact that sharks breach the water.
It's true. Yeah.
But I feel like if I learned all of my science about sharks from the Jaws movies, I would think that sharks regularly just like stick the entire front half of their body out into air onto something.
That's right.
To snack. Like, they're just nabbing people off docks.
Yeah.
Like, and they could like grab like a low flying seaplane if they want. Like,
they could
there's
take
just
out a helicopter
and also
if they want.
that they then have the like flipper strength to just like shoot back into the water. And I don't know if any of that's true. I feel like even
Hollywood has impacted this a bit.
Yes. Even I don't think the credentials need to be questioned how much I love the original movie. When like some of the stuff in the final sequence when it's on the orca eating Quint or going in after Brody, I'm like, how do you get back in the water? How are you not beached on this boat right now? Are you just waiting for the boat to sink enough, shark, to get back in the water? And can you breathe long enough to do that? Or hold your breath.
Territoriality. He needs to protect his space, and he knows what he needs to do. He owns the boat. It's now his. And no more orca.
There's definitely a line through all these topics of, Jaws 3D filmed at SeaWorld. SeaWorld grows more popular. Shamu grows more popular. Orcas become more popular. Now orcas are out eating billionaires on yachts by attacking their boat.
That's right.
Like Bruce does in Jaws.
And if I really wanted to, I could expand this series to include the classic 70s horror film made past Jaws, Orca, with Richard Harris.
Orca. Yes.
Also killed in Jaws 2 as well, right? That's one of the first kills is the beached orca that they're like, I guess.
That was
how did this get here? And then they have Brody, Hooper stand-in lady.
When Jen had told me a few days before, she's like, I got invited back to talk about Jaws 2. I was like, that's fun. And then I got a text like randomly that was, why is there a beached orca? And I like, it took me
Natural
a second to
enemy.
remember the context. I was like, wait, why? Like in the world? Like in like, I don't know. Like, what do you
Why
mean?
is there
Oh,
beached orca?
you're watching this movie. Got it. But yes, we did not watch Orca. We did get into like, let's watch some. We watched Piranha, which I
See?
never
That's a
actually
good one.
seen.
I like Piranha.
Yeah, Joe Dante.
And you can watch
Yes, fun.
Piranha 3D and continuing the 3D trend.
Now, Piranha, yeah.
With Richard
I believe it's
Dreyfuss as a cameo.
Yes, and Back to the Future's Christopher Lloyd
Also,
brought in
yes.
to just give a bunch of exposition
That's
and
right.
absolutely killing it. Which is that movie I saw in the theater in 3D, but I had not seen the original Piranha. And
You didn't need to
Piranha
see
2.
yeah.
Yeah, Piranha 2, the first movie by James Cameron.
That's right.
Maybe the really interesting Roger Corman's little production companies launching careers. We also watched The Deep, which is another Peter Benchley story.
That's right.
With Robert Shaw in it. And even though I knew, because I had like, I think I tried to read the book when I was a kid after I read Jaws. Like I still like forgot that the whole thing with The Deep is like, it's not a sea monster really. It's a like man against nature trying to like tamp down its greed to reclaim treasure movie. And they like throw eels in occasionally to be like, is this like Jaws? Is this enough like Jaws?
Never could reclaim the magic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, PT, I'm at my last question here. And the question is plain and simple. Will you ever revisit Jaws 3 again?
I'm going to say no with an asterisk.
Oh, okay.
And here's my asterisk. I don't feel like I ever need to watch. Like I feel the times I've watched this over to, I'm like, you know what? I've given this all the chances it needs. However, the asterisk is I know that it's happened a couple of times in the now 15 plus years that I've lived in Los Angeles. We have a very vibrant repertory cinema.
You got many down there.
Network here. And I think it's both times it's been at the American Cinematheque. They have done a 3D movie.
Kind of like a B movie
like,
festival. Yeah.
Yes. But it would be like, they'll show movies from like the 50s that when they first started 3D things. And they'll like, I mean, I don't know if they ever got Avatar, but they might show like the Clash of the Titans from like 2010,
fair.
where it was like one of those movies where it was, where it was like this trend of movies filmed to be in 3D. And I know that they've shown Friday the 13th and Amityville, the aforementioned. That has happened multiple times in 3D. If they did that and they showed Jaws 3D Jaws 3 as Jaws 3D in 3D, I might need to go and see what it actually looks like with the 3D glasses.
And with a crowd, right?
What would a crowd?
That experience, right? Is someone getting up and applauding the Venezuela decision.
Yes. Finally.
You could be that person. You could be that person, BT. Start the trend.
Yeah. Be like, remember? I do. And they could be like, yes, we all remembered Venezuela now.
I'm like,
slow clap.
Could the Jaws 3D, if someone wanted to, could it have like this like midnight screening, like The Room kind of renaissance, where if they embraced it for the absurdity of it all and made it like this engaging, crowd friendly, play on things, could it have a resurgent, a second life in that vein?
I think it could have, but I think it needed to have already happened.
Okay.
And I also feel like the crowd that's into that is more into people who are trying to make their own kind of unique artistic statement that they either like. I feel like something like Rocky Horror, it's people being like, I ironically love this. And then it turns into like, no, I actually love it. Like, I just love this.
Right. The many stages of acceptance.
Yeah. And I don't know if people like, there's probably some people who actually turn to love The Room. That stays ironic. But I think that like when it's the third movie in a series, it's a little bit like, this was a corporate product that turned out bad. It doesn't have that energy of like, God, they were trying something and it's crazy. That something like those sort of midnight movies have. And I think if they wanted a shark version of that, it would be
Mhm.
the Deep Blue Sea would be the
Yeah.
one they turn to.
Oh, fair. Yeah, that'd be a good one. That'd be a good one. If the Meg were more outrageous, that could have been another example of it too. But they tried to be a bit more serious in tone on that.
Yeah.
It tried to tread the line. It was tough. Cruel Jaws should be that. I can tell you
Well,
that.
look, I'm excited for that episode. I might. Here's my question: Should I listen? Should I wait and listen to your Cruel Jaws episode before I watch Cruel Jaws, or reverse it?
Oh, that's a great question there. I would say listen to us talk. Well,
Spoilers, though.
we're gonna spoil it,
Yeah,
so watch it first. But is it really gonna be that much of a spoil?
it's a good point.
uh, uh, I'm gonna say just watch it first.
Okay.
Watch it first, and then digest it, and then come to hear Greg and I dissect it.
Right, and I'll have 24 hours to digest it.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
of my territoriality,
as all sharks do.
Yes,
exactly. Very, very fair. Do you think? I assume there's a novelization of this story
it's a great
out
question.
there, and if there is, do you think it's better than the movie? Because with the
Ooh.
space and time that the novel has, do you think that would fill up a lot of like the half-beat plot points that we were talking about today?
That is super interesting. I'm
Just
frantically
quickly on
Googling.
eBay trying to find.
Well, I'm looking. Apparently there wasn't, but there are fan fiction.
No way.
There's a Wattpad Jaws 3D a novel.
Yes. Oh man, I can only imagine.
Although, yeah, the description of it begins with after Chief Martin Brody dies.
Because
the older
Jaws
Brody
the
goes to
Revenge
work.
has a novelization, and Jaws 2 does. So why isn't this one?
It's a great question. My guess is because they never nailed down what was happening in time.
Probably.
And I wonder if
the deadline strikes again.
I did just find a screenplay from 1982 online of Jaws 3.
Did you find the original screenplay?
It's not it says revised first draft, but it says by Michael Caine, not that Michael Caine, Kane.
Okay.
Not Michael Caine. Michael Caine and Richard Matheson. So it doesn't have Craig Gottlieb on it. Anyway, interesting. Sorry. Now I'm just narrating my Googling. But
Okay.
yeah, I think it would be interesting if there were, because maybe it would be based on the original screenplay, and it would have some of those like Revenge of the Sith style additions that were like, this got taken out, it shouldn't have, or this
Let's
order
add
makes
this in
more sense.
here.
Like,
Yeah.
the Phantom Menace novel, doesn't it sort of have the sequence of the fight ends on Anakin instead of on Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon? Maybe that's the screenplay that came out. Anyway,
it's been a while. Yeah.
But I mean, apparently there's not a novel that I could see in a quick Google. But if there were, I would not be surprised if it was a little bit more coherent. But also it's possible that it would be like just straight like trash. Like nowadays you would be like, this was written by AI. Like, or, this was barely edited. And, it was just churned out by someone who borrowed Dennis Quaid's cocaine for a weekend and just banged out
and had a good time.
Yeah. Banged out 170 pages of words to get a sufficient amount for a paperback publication.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sad now that the one doesn't exist. It would have been interesting. Would have kept the Jaws 3 conversation going here, because somehow we've made it to the runtime of this movie, which I didn't expect to.
I didn't either.
We had a lot more meat on the bone to chew on for this one than I think we expected. It was that late stage capitalism conversation that really got us going.
Sure. But we got to tangent into Back to the Future and
also,
and
yeah, we opened up some tabs.
Yeah. Yes.
Now, should there be and this is really my last question here. Should there be a mandate that all part 3s of a franchise be 3D?
Oh, no.
So like Return of the Jedi 3D, Return of the King 3D, Alien 3D.
well, okay. First, I'll give the short answer. No, we'll talk a little bit more about it. Did they ever get? I know that obviously they released Phantom Menace 3D.
Mm-hmm.
They have screened Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith 3D.
They did. Yep.
I believe at a celebration.
Did they ever
actually make 3D versions of the original trilogy, or were they just planning on it? Do you know this?
They have, I'm sure they have, and it was the basis for the 4Ks that we now have.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So that scan that they did for that is what eventually then is now what you see on Disney Plus.
Got it. So
So they
would
have
there
it in a vault.
would there? Oh, right. Because I do remember that, because they would have added McClunky to the
Yep.
3D version.
That's right.
That's right. When they announced, when they put that out there. George Lucas is a crazy man. God love him. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna say no, only because 3D. Not that 3D is a gimmick. 3D can work really well. I mean, I'm
Come
very
on, The
glad
Godfather
the Avatar,
3D.
yeah, the end of the era, the Michael Corleone saga.
That's right, in 3D.
The Godfather Coda in 3D. That would be great. Just when they thought I was out, they pull me back in. That was very visual for the people
that's
listening.
Coppola's MO now. Just add 3D to things, right? I think a Metropolis 3D re-release could serve wonders.
Was that? No, that wasn't. Megalopolis was not in 3D, but
it was not. Yeah,
I mean,
technically, I mean, depending on the screening you got, if you got a person in the audience talking to
4D.
them, we're beyond the realm. We're talking fourth wall here. So
yeah. I was very disappointed to realize the person isn't actually speaking; they're just miming to the lines that's on the print.
Really?
In the movie. Yeah,
that's a shame.
Anyway, because I did have a person at the screening I went to.
As you should.
Yeah, no big deal.
Just a badge of honor here.
Yeah, put it on the wall.
I put it on my resume.
Yeah, see, I'll see if I can get a certificate to print out and frame. But yeah, it's just like, 3D can work, and I think James Cameron does a great job with the Avatar movies. I'm glad the Avatar movies exist. They are a good ballast in my life when I talk to people who are normal about stuff like Star Wars and Indiana Jones and Back to the Future and Jaws, where I'm like, right, let me think about, like, assume this person thinks about that movie the way I think about Avatar, which means I go and see it when it's in the theater and I have a great time, and then I don't think about it ever again. And then
the sequel
a new one comes out,
your mind. Yeah.
A new one comes out and I go to see it and I have a great time, and then I zoom right past it on Disney Plus. Never crosses my mind to put it on. Just doesn't feel like a thing I need to watch on TV. Right, that's how normal people deal with movies, and especially these big franchise movies.
Yeah,
that I spend too much time thinking. But that 3D is great. I wouldn't want to put the burden on. I'm taking your question too seriously. I wouldn't want to put the burden on the filmmakers to actually have to, like, integrate 3D in a way that's 3D. Worthwhile. Yeah, like, Thor Ragnarok had to be in 3D, and I think Taika would have lost his mind. Well,
I did see it in 3D. I saw it in 3D. But it's just
that's right.
I think with Avatar, that's the change of it. Well, of course, there were films at that time, Piranha 3D, Clash of the Titans, but that's where they started switching to, like, 3D in terms of just depth perception of film, rather than it being whoa shooting things in your face and whatnot, and all like, Muppets 3D shooting stuff around and having a good time with it in that way. But more of just like that's further off in the distance than it should actually be kind of deal, which I think works pretty well. I actually missed that. I wish more films had that nowadays.
Yeah, in the same way that Tarantino, I remember when Hateful Eight was coming out, and Tarantino's like, I made this on 70mm film.
Yep.
Like, Panavision.
Come see it in the projector.
I'm so excited. And it was just like, oh wow, that's so cool. And then it's like, what happens in your movie? It's 8 people in a room and they're talking.
Yep.
And it's like,
what large vista sequences here and there.
Yeah, but like, when you have those 8 people, like, you have such, because of the film, you have this depth of focus where you could really feel like that, like, distance in this relatively small room, like, feels important, and you can see everybody and all the details. And I think that that's a use of technology to do that, not just to be like, look at all these crazy, like, shots I can do. And when 3D is done well, it's done similarly, to be like, look at this depth of field, look at this motion that's handled in a way that is intriguing, and not just something that's slapped on to be like, whoa. There are some things in those movies from, like, the 2010s, like, I mean, I have nothing but deep love and affection for Mad Max Fury Road, one of the best movies of the century. There is that moment when, spoilers, skip ahead 30 seconds if you haven't seen Fury Road, when everything crashes at the end, and the guitar just, like, comes right into the camera. And I was like, oh, that's for the 3D audience. Like, that's the, like, 3D shot.
There it is.
That was in this. Like, okay, cool. And like it still kind of feels like they needed to put that in, even when you watch it now. But I don't care because that movie's great.
It is a
So
fantastic
do you
film.
want every third movie to be in 3D? Thunderdome 3D.
I'm not opposed to it. Thunderdome 3D, Superman 3D, right? I think just some of those films might be better if this, I think sometimes the third movie in franchises is when it goes off the rails. And if it was more liberal, as the films exist as they are, if 3D were added to it, I might revisit them a bit more. And if I had the technology to watch them as such, maybe.
Think of My Friends, You Bow to No One, and then they're bowing right in your face.
That's right. Or like, Legolas taking out an elephant, and just seeing that in 3D would be a majestic thing. It would be truly majestic. Or you could. I definitely saw the Hobbit films in 3D, so but that was the depth perception 3D, so that wasn't the same as like what we're referring to. But I'm thinking Richard Pryor and Christopher Reeve just flying off in the distance and fighting off a nuclear arsenal in Smallville. I think that'd be and a computer. That'd be more interesting. And drunk Superman fighting could have been a lot more fun.
Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones.
I was just about to say Batman Forever would be great. Sure. That was made for it, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I think 3D could be more used. Let me just, I'm on record as saying that.
I'm sold.
I've sold you. Perfect.
Make it happen.
Well, PT, we have talked at length about Jaws 3. In fact, far more than I thought we were going to talk about it. And I think it's time that we bring this to a wrap here. So where can the folks find you and the Long Take Review? And feel free to plug anything you want right now.
Sure. Well, and first of all, Anthony, thank you so much for having me on, but both to talk about good Jaws and also this Jaws.
and bad Jaws.
It's great as well. It's great to be here, and this has been fun, and I look forward to forgetting everything about this movie again.
That's right. In one ear and out the other.
Yes. But yes, you can find me personally. The best place to find me is on Letterboxd. The account is at PT McNiff, PTMCNIFF altogether. But you can also look for me and find me and my co-hosts on the Long Take Review, reviewing movies, talking about new movies. We're in the summer blockbuster time, so not too much look ahead to the current the upcoming Oscar season, but we've got some past Oscars that we've talked about. We've been dipping into talking about some older movies. We do have some new movies that are coming out that we're excited to see and discuss. So come check us out. We are also on Letterboxd at LTR Pod. You can follow us on social media. We're on Blue Sky, Threads, and Instagram at The Long Take Review. And you can also just look for us wherever you get your podcast, wherever you're listening to Force Ghost Conversations. Do a little search. Maybe the hyperlink underneath in the show notes will work. I don't know. I don't want to put that on Anthony. I don't exactly know how that works. Jen handles those. But look for The Long Take Review, and then check us out and see if you're interested in hearing a little bit more.
Yeah, highly recommend the show. Go check it out. You guys just did a recent episode at the time of this episode's release on the flashback for the 2018 Oscars, which I got a bone to pick. I assumed you might be aware that this was coming. But
I think we mentioned it on the show. We apologized to you on air. I don't know if that got cut.
That's right. No, well, it came across, but not enough love for Three Billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri.
Yes, there's definitely a divide between the people who love Three Billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri, which includes Anthony, and then the people who are less enthusiastic by it, which were the four hosts of the Long Take Review.
That's right. I was on an island, and I was like, how is no one defending Sam Rockwell?
It's tough. It's tough. But I will say I hadn't seen it until preparing for that episode, and so
you hadn't seen
I
it.
only just watched it, and I'm. It's interesting. I think we need to have a discussion. We need to have a longer discussion.
I think so. It was one of the best cinematic experiences I've had in my life. Seeing that, and it was a triple feature day of Lady Bird to start, then Shape of Water, and then Three Billboards. As I was clearing out to get before the ceremony.
Was this the Best Picture like you buy a package to see all the Best Picture nominees, or were you just theater?
Um,
Like, you go into the theater a bunch of times?
so at this was the first summer, or the first year that so before this 2018 Oscars run, that was when I would use the Oscars to then fill up my Netflix DVD, queue.
Sure.
Right. I would then say like, "Oh, that
Right.
seems interesting. That seems like a good movie. Oh, that won a lot of awards. I'm putting this on the queue." So then that would dictate what I watched afterwards. And then
Got it.
I was living on my own for the first time, and I had a movie theater down the road, and I had free will. And I said, I'm going to, I had free will and money for the first time in my life. So I was like, okay, I'm actually going to watch all of the Oscar films before the
Nice.
ceremony. And this is a trend that I've tried to continue as much as I could up to now. Um, and that was really the first year that I did that. So it just involved a lot of weekends of like, okay, what showing is this? What showing is that? So, catching the 10 o'clock p.m. one time only showing of Call Me By Your Name was that time. Finding
Nice.
the 10 a.m. of the Post, and then trying to make my three. Fortunately, it worked out that way. You could get that last couple of movies in was a triple feature of Lady Bird, Shape of Water, and then which preceded almost if you take out the evening before was also Phantom Thread, and then went to bed, woke
Oh,
up,
wow.
showered, went back to the movie theater to then proceed with my triple feature, and then went home, went to bed again, woke up Sunday. Yeah, that was a fun weekend. But yeah, that was how I caught the three billboards, and it was a great time.
Wow. So okay, it's possible you were delirious. That's why you liked the movie so much. Was you were high on the movie going experience from
I gotta
having
tell you,
mainlined it.
it was one of the first times ever, and it's only happened with this experience that people outside, like when the movie ended, people walked outside and they were just asking random strangers what they thought about it. And it
Interesting.
created this whole conversation before people even left the theater. They're talking with people they'll never see again. They're asking
Yeah,
what they
yeah.
thought of it. What did they think of these plot points and all that, and the character development and all of that. And I'm like, this has never happened since. And
Interesting.
that's kind of like,
Cool.
not necessarily a high I've been chasing, but it's like my white whale, so to speak, my Moby Dick of like, how am I going to get this experience again? And it hasn't happened since.
Do you end up leaving movies and just like lurking in the lobby, like looking at everyone and hoping, be like, who wants to talk? I will say the time I had that experience that I remember was, and this will again show that there's we both come across sounding like adults, but where there's a gap in our ages. So when I was like, I'm able to go see movies on my own, this is great. Was 17 years earlier, 16 years earlier. I saw Memento in the
Okay,
theaters.
yeah,
And that was the movie ended, and people, like everyone in the theater didn't leave. We
we had to
all
talk
just stood
about
up
it.
in the seats and started to be like, so like, what do you think was going on there? And like, when
Hmm.
did you realize this? And how do you feel that worked? And it was like not a sold out movie, but like there was like 20 people that just started
Yeah,
talking. And the people who come to clean the theater were like, you all need to leave. And we
you
all
got to
moved
get
to the
out,
lobby and we kept
please.
talking in the lobby and like, we were dissecting it. So, yeah, it's, I understand that. That makes sense as like a real additive to the experience is when you get that like elevates the experience
Yeah,
of seeing a movie. And also, yeah, I also think seeing something in a theater is always better. Not maybe
it
not
is the
always,
premier experience. Well,
but
yeah, that's true.
it is almost always better.
Let me just say,
Sometimes
at
if it's
best, when it's at its
yes,
best, it's the best
yes.
experience.
Sometimes if it's something that like I really don't like, then I'm like mad I'm in a theater watching it.
Mm.
Or if there's something really like frustrating happening outside,
Yeah,
around
it's
in the
usually the
theater.
people that are like
Yes.
on their phone or something.
Um, yeah. All right. Well, look, we'll have to do a further dive at some point, maybe on
A deeper dive into the three
LTR guest
billboards.
list, to talk about three billboards. And
I'll say
we'll
it's
have
on
to
my
confront it.
guest list
It
recommendation. So
is. It's
like,
on. No, I mean, I'm up for talking about it. I'm excited. I'm excited to do a deeper dive. I do love Martin McDonagh. I love all the performers in that. I think it was just a tough year because there were just so many movies that were
it
really
was
good.
a tough year. It was not
So
a great year. It was a great year for films,
it was a great
and
year for film.
really, for a year to do that, a deep dive into like all of them for once, like it was a true tremendous blast.
That was very well chosen. You weren't
Yeah,
like
I got lucky.
watching. You weren't watching The Artist And
Yeah.
I can't remember. There were some other movies that year that were kind of like, okay, whatever.
I think the year
There's good
afterwards
movies
with
that year.
like Roma and like Bohemian Rhapsody, like that was a bit more of a slog to get
Yeah,
through. I
I do
remember.
like Roma, but yeah, there were some tough movies that year. Um, but anyway, we'll get into this at some
Of
point.
course, of
We'll
course.
to be continued.
TBD. And folks, yeah, go check out the long take review. And I think you can already guess what next week episode is about. We're moving on to Jaws 4, Jaws the Revenge. We're going to talk about the Michael Caine, the Hoagie. Is it a Christmas movie? We'll discuss all of that and more. So stay tuned for that. Do you have a thought,
No, I was
BT?
gonna
Is
say
it a
I
Christmas
realized.
movie?
Well, I was gonna say no. I was gonna say now I'm realizing that you're doing this plug when you said, "How dare you?" We disrespected Three Billboards. I should have said, "Well, this time it's personal.
That's right.
We did it
That's
for
right.
you." That would have been the transition. But
Oh,
I
that was
screwed it up.
brilliant. Oh man, I'll have to edit that into the.
This
Just.
time it's personal. What?
Folks, thank you for listening to this. We've exceeded the runtime of Jaws 3D, so you almost could have had this commentary running parallel with it, and it would have probably served equally as well as watching the movie. So please go do that. I think it'd be a fun experience. But again, we'll be back next week with Jaws the Revenge in your podcast feeds. And until then, may the force be with you. Take care.